to my dear friends, respected men and my dear friends. Today I am going to give a presentation on the topic cell structure and function. So first of all, we have to know about what is a cell. We all know that organisms, including plants, animals and microorganisms, are made up of cells. So the proper definition of a cell is the smallest structural and functional unit of an organism is called a cell. Robert Hooke coined the term cell in 1664. Organisms may be composed of only one cell or many cells. Organism whose body consists of only one cell is called unicellular organism, and organism whose body consists of many cells is called multicellular organism. The smallest cell is bacteria, which ranges from 0.5 to 0.1 to 0.5 micrometer. And the largest cell is the egg of ostrich, which ranges to 170 millimeter in diameter. There are two types of cell: prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. Cell which have a well-defined nucleus is called eukaryotic cell, and a cell which do not have a well-defined nucleus is called prokaryotic cell. Examples of eukaryotic cells are human beings, plants, etc. And the examples of prokaryotic cells are living algae, viruses, etc. So in a cell there are three main types. Cell membrane, cytoplasm, and nucleus. So first of all, cell membrane. Cell membrane is the outermost covering part of a cell which protects and demarcates the cell from other cells. Cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is the jelly-like substance present within the cell membrane. There are several living membranes which perform several activities. They are known as cell organelles. So let us discuss some of cell organelles. This is the diagram of animal cell. In the animal cell there are several cell organelles such as Golgi body. Golgi body is responsible for packaging and transporting of fats and proteins. Then mitochondria. Mitochondria act as the site of energy production, hence it is known as the powerhouse of the cell. Then these are ribosomes. Ribosomes are the smaller granular substances present within the cell membrane. This is the primary sites for protein synthesis. Then these are vacuoles. In the animal cell there are small vacuoles present, but in the plant cell there are large vacuoles present. Vacuole stores excessive water and useful mineral. Then it is centrosome. Centrosome is only present in the animal cell. Centrosome regulates cell division. Then lysosome. Lysosome contains one chemical substances known as enzymes, and in the emergency situation, lysosome bursts and destroys the cell, hence it is known as the suicide brake of the cell. And the third part of a cell is the nucleus. This is the diagram of nucleus. Nucleus is also known as the brain of the cell. In the nucleus there are several parts. Nucleoplasm. Nucleoplasm is the semi-solid-like structures present within the cell membrane. Then this is nuclear membrane. This is nucleolus. Even nucleus also but some round structures known as nucleolus. In the nucleoplasm, there are several straight-like structures known as chromatin fiber. These fibers transfer the characteristics of a cell to a new cell, and these chromatin fibers are made up of with DNA. And the full form of DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. And these all are nuclear code. This is all about the main parts of a cell. Now we will discuss some difference between the plant cell and the animal cell. In the animal cell, there are small vacuoles present, but in the plant cell, there are large vacuoles present. Plastids are present only in the plant cell, the plastids are absent in the animal cell. dense in the animal cell, but cytoplasm is not dense in the plant cell. So this was all about my presentation. Thank you.
Morning everyone, my name is Tejas Patel and in this presentation we are going to discuss about cells. So we are going to discuss about three topics: the variation in cells, the types of cells, and structure of cells. Before that, we have to know what is a cell. A cell is the smallest structural and functional unit, smallest unit in an organism. So first, we are going to discuss the variation in cell. So the first variation in number. So organisms which consist of more than one cell are called multicellular organisms, and organisms which have only one cell are called unicellular organisms. One example of unicellular organism is amoeba. So next, the second variation in shape. So the shape of the particular cell depends on the specific work it do. So for example, the muscle cell is thin and long, so it helps in movement of the body for construction and reproduction. So next we have the variation in size. So many cells vary from some micrometer to some few centimeters. So the smallest cells are bacteria that are 0.1 micrometer to 0.5 micrometers, and the largest cells are the egg of ostrich, that is 170 millimeters. So next we have the types of cells. So there are two types of cells, that are eukaryotic cells and prokaryotic cells. Cells that lack a well-defined nucleus are called prokaryotic cells, and the cells that have a well-defined nucleus are called eukaryotic cells. So the example of prokaryotic cells are bacteria, algae, and all the organisms except the bacteria are called the eukaryotic cells. Next we have the structure of cells. So there are three main parts of the cells, that are cell membrane, cytoplasm, and the nucleus. So the cell membrane is the outermost cover of the cell that protects the cells and demarcates from another cells. So the next is cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is a jelly-like substance inside the cell membrane. So many organelles inside the cytoplasm are there. So next we have the nucleus. Nucleus is also called the brain of the cells. In the nucleus is surrounded by double membrane, that is called nuclear membrane. In the nucleus there are one nucleolus that contains a chromatin fiber. Inside the chromatin fiber there are some genes. Next we have some organelles of the cells. So the first organelle is Golgi apparatus. So Golgi apparatus, also known as the Golgi body, helping the transport, storage, and packaging of cell product. Next we have the endoplasmic reticulum, that is used in synthesis, storage, and the transport of cell products. Next we have the ribosomes. They are the primary sites of protein. Next we have vacuole. Vacuole are only found in the plant cells, and some of the vacuole are found only in animal cells, but they are very small. Vacuoles store water and some useful minerals and pigments. Next we have the mitochondria. They provide power to the cells, hence they are also called the powerhouse of the cells. Next we have the plastids that are found only in plant cells. So there are three types of plastids, that is chromoplast, chloroplast, and leucoplast. Next we have cytoplasm that are found only in animal cells. They initiate the cell division of the cells. Next we have the lysosomes that have the enzymes that are capable to digest the cells. They are also called the suicide bag of the cells. So thank you. Here my presentation ends.
First of all, what is reproduction? Reproduction is the process by which living beings produce their young ones. There are two types of reproduction: asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, parents are not needed, and in sexual reproduction, both male and female parts are required to produce a new organism. Most of the plants and animals, and also human beings, reproduce bisexually. And as you know that in asexual reproduction, both male and female parts are not required. The individual will form from the cells of a single parent. The examples of asexual reproduction are binary fission and budding. In binary fission, a single cell gets divided to form a new daughter cell. The example of binary fission is amoeba. In amoeba, we all know that amoeba is an unicellular organism that consists of nucleus, cytoplasm, and cell membrane. In amoeba, the nucleus gets divided into. In the parent amoeba, the nucleus get divided into two. Get divided and form two daughter cells. And in budding, a new organism grows out from the parent and eventually separates to form a new organism. But the hydra is the example of budding. In hydra, a small like structure grows whole bud grows into a baby hydra and then gets separate and form a new hydra by the process of budding. Thank you, and here my presentation ends.
Okay, so good morning everyone. Today I'm going to discuss briefly about one topic, that is the menstrual cycle. Okay, so first of all we are going to know that. Okay, so first of all I'm going to tell you that there are 4 phases in the time of menstruation. So number 1 phase is bleeding phase, and number 2 phase, that is pre-ovulatory phase, and third phase, that is ovulatory phase, or you can say ovulation, and the last is post-ovulatory phase. So the first phase occurs in the 4 to 6 day and around 20. So this bleeding phase occurs in the 4 to 6 days. So now we are going to have a look in the pre-ovulatory phase. Okay, so what happens in this pre-ovulatory phase? So there is a portion in our brain that is known as So this hypothalamus controls various activities of our body, but we are going to see the main activity of this hypothalamus in the menstrual cycle. So what does this hypothalamus do? This hypothalamus secretes a hormone that is known as GnRH, which is known as gonadotropin releasing hormone. Okay, so what does this do? This gives signals to a pituitary gland, or you can say anterior pituitary, which is the front anterior means front portion of our pituitary gland, to secrete a hormone that is known as FSH. Okay, so FSH means follicular stimulating hormone. So this FSH creates a follicle, that is the first follicle is primary follicle. Okay, so before I continue after this, okay, so I want you to tell what is a follicle. Can anyone explain that about a follicle? What is a follicle? What is a follicle? Okay, so follicles are sacs that are found inside the ovaries and that are filled with liquids, or you can say fluids. Okay, so this primary follicle further develops into secondary follicle, and then this finally the secondary follicle matures and converts itself into Graafian follicle. Okay, so what does this Graafian follicle do? This Graafian follicle produces progesterone. Oh, sorry, not progesterone graphene follicle produce estrogen. Okay, so estrogen. Okay, so due to positive feedback, our hypothalamus produce more amount of FSH and an amount of LH, that is known as luteinizing hormone. But due to secretion of another hormone, that is inhibin, the amount of FSH cannot rise, but the LH is rising. LH will rise. Okay, so around the 13th to 14th, 10 to 14 day, this LH occurs rising, and this is known as LH surge. Okay, so now what is so this is a phase. This phase is known as a pre-ovulatory phase. Okay, so the next is ovulatory phase, or we can say ovulation. So what does this graphene follicle do? This graphene follicle produce ova. So if fertilization occurs, then the ova will further develop into embryo. But if not, okay, so now what happens to our graphene follicle? So now blood will start filling into the graphene follicle, and then the graphene follicle converts itself to corpus luteum. Okay, so now so this corpus luteum cells will produce progesterone. Okay, so what does this progesterone and some amount of estrogen also. But this but here the amount of progesterone will should be high, because this progesterone prevents the uterine wall, or which we can say endometrium, prevents shedding of the endometrium. Okay, so now, but if if fertilization occurs, that is good. But if fertilization doesn't occur, then what happens? Then due to negative feedback, our hypothalamus will stop producing LH. So if the LH stops producing, then the corpus luteum also starts degenerating. And then if this corpus luteum starts degenerating, then the progesterone will also degenerate. Then what happens? The endometrium, or we can say uterine wall, can be shed. Okay, so this phase brings us back to the bleeding phase. So we can then this cycle goes off, and we can see this cycle around 28 days. Okay, so the first menstruation happens at the age of 10 to 15 years, and that is known as menarche. And when this menstruation stops completely around 45 to 55 years of age, that is known as menopause. Okay, so I hope that you have understood what I want to explain. So thank you and have a great day.
My name is Srijan Krishna Sheol. Today in this presentation I am going to explain you about the topic fuels. So what are fuels? Fuels are substances that produce heat and light on burning. These fuels can be based on three physical states, based on their physical appearances, that are solid, liquid and gaseous. So solid fuels are fuels that exist at solid state at room temperature. They are mainly cow dung, wood, charcoal, oak and coal. Then liquid fuels that exist in liquid state at the normal room temperature. They could be kerosene, petrol, diesel, etc. And lastly, the gaseous fuels, which exist in gaseous states at room temperature, such as petroleum, methane, then LPG, etc. Then, by the term fuels and its explanation, we understand what is the main work of fuel: to produce heat and energy. But fuels also depends on its cost, efficiency, and the extent of pollution it causes when burning. The most important characteristics of a fuel is the calorific value it produces. The calorific value of a fuel means the amount of heat produced in kilojoules when 1 gram of a fuel is completely burned. Their ideal characteristics are: it should have a fairly high calorific value. Then its ignition temperature should be low. Means we should not that it should not be a very hard task to burn it, but also well above the room temperature, or otherwise it will catch fire very easily. Then it should be fairly cheap and highly easily available, not very rare. Otherwise fuels, or we could say producing heat and light will become a great risk. And it should be safe to handle, store and transport. Otherwise, how could we use it? And it should not cause too much pollution on burning. Now, from my side, the best fuel based on their calorific value and all the points I have said are methane and LPG, as they don't cause too much pollution on burning. They do not cause any type of pollution on burning only, and they are also safe to handle, store and transport. Only the one disadvantage is that methane is a greenhouse gas. So thank you. Here my presentation is.
Respected ma'am and my dear friends, today I am here going to give a small presentation on the topic combustion. So first of all, we know about that what is combustion. The process of burning of a substance in the presence of air or oxygen with the liberation of heat and light is called combustion. So conditions required for combustion are: number one, combustible substance. A combustible substance must be present for any combustion. The number 2 point is adequate supply of oxygen. The number 3 is reaching the ignition temperature, that is the minimum temperature in which a substance will burn. And the types of combustion. Number 1, rapid combustion, a large amount of gas is released in a very short span of time. LPG is an example of rapid combustion. Then explosion. So in explosion, heat, light and sound are suddenly released, and a large amount of gas is also produced. So the bursting of firecracker is an example of explosion. And the third is spontaneous combustion. So in spontaneous combustion, doesn't need any supply of heat, and the substance starts burning on its own. For example, the white phosphorus gets a fire on its own at room temperature.